see what happens with that. Right now, we'd like to recognize several All-Americans who are in our midst, men and women from the class of 2016 and 2017. If you're here, stand when I say your name, if you don't mind. So the class of 2016, Caleb Grimes from St. X, Chris Stone from Mail. I know Chris is right over here. Luke Ruggie from South Oldham, Patrick Dermody from KCD, Stefan Chris from Lexington Cath, Caroline Anderson, Kentucky Country Day, Maeve Grady, DuPont Manual. Is she here? I bet. Oh, Dad's here. Thanks, Dad. Claire Hamilton, KCD, Lisa Niblock, Sacred Heart Academy.
Congratulations, Chris.
Dad's here. All right, class of 2017, Claire Hamilton, KCD, Caroline Anderson, KCD, Katie Gerber, Eastern. Here. Congratulations. Julia Foster, Eastern. She here? Oh, she's not here, okay. Dad's here? Congrats, Dad. Shelby West, Assumption, Sheldon Brown, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, Luke again from South Oldham, who we know is not here tonight, Henry Stites, Collegiate, Joseph Stuber, Lexington Cath, Blake Roshkowski, St. X, and Luke During, is he here? From North Hardin? We thought he might be here. All right, very good. Congratulations to all of them. And before we get to the Hall of Famers, we'd like to hear from the president of the KLA, Jeff Jett.
I wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. When I was elected president 4 or 5 months ago, I didn't really realize all of the people that came before me. And this is a really unique way for me to learn about them and what they've done for this sport and how they've gotten us where we are today. One of the things I really liked was the idea of tying the All-Americans in with the Hall of Famers, because you had the builders of this program and giving them the opportunity to see what they've had as far as what they've done for other people. And the young men and women, having it in February, most of them young men and women, because of your efforts, aren't here tonight. They're off at college. Some of them were able to come back in, or they're in school here locally, but it's really, their names are because of you folks, because of you Hall of Famers. I do want to give a couple very special thank yous this evening. One, Miss Jennifer Castle, if you'd stand up. I've said this jokingly a couple of times. If it were not for Jennifer, we would be sitting in a pavilion in a park somewhere eating hot dogs. She really put this together, did an excellent job. It's wonderful what she was able to put together. Second person I would like to thank, Ms. Kemp, could you please stand up? All right. Now, nobody else really knows the backstory except for me and Troy. I had seen Troy and set this up with him at LexCon, and somewhere in the shuffle between his calendar and her calendar, she had accepted an invitation to a gala to honor her as part of what he does. She gave that up so they could be here tonight, and I really, really appreciate what she's done. I do hope everybody enjoys the night. Kentucky Lacrosse has had its same basic mission since the beginning, to grow the sport, to include everybody in this game that we love, that we can. And I do hope that I can honor that tradition from the folks here tonight and continue that legacy forward. So everybody have a great evening, and we look forward to the Hall of Famers.
Thank you very much. All right, now our main event, our 5 inductees into the Kentucky Hall of Fame, and each one to be introduced by someone who knows them well. They're going to introduce our inductee, who will then come forward for their award, and it's up to them, I guess, if they want to say a few words, if they'd like to. At the end of our inductions, we have a video presentation of all of our winners, so stay tuned for that. Our first inductee is Stu Bailey, a coach, introduced tonight by his daughter, Brittany McKenna. Brittany, come on forward.
Good evening, my name is Brittany. I'm an attorney from Louisville, and if there's any players in here who are lucky enough to be coached by a parent, you know the struggle of knowing whether or not to call them coach or dad or mom. Well, tonight he's dad, so I'm gonna try not to cry. But in coaching, there's a big difference between authority and influence. When you step into the role as a coach, you're going to assume the authority just as a basic function of that role. But when a coaching philosophy is built upon a foundation of authority, success will more often than not be limited by the natural talents of your athletes under that authority that you have. But when a coach becomes an influencer, an athlete's potential for success both on and off of the field is totally and completely unlimited. Dad, the young women you've coached have gone on to reach incredible heights due in no small part to your influence as their coach. Among the Blue Jays, Oldham County Lacrosse, and Kentucky Lacrosse players are doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, PhDs, community leaders, business executives and entrepreneurs, and we even have a yoga instructor in Costa Rica among our ranks. I think she might have won that lottery. And when I asked my former teammates and coaches to share some of their thoughts about Coach Stu and his influence, this is what I heard. His coaching was unmatched. Everyone loved playing for him. His players thought the world of him. He took a non-athlete and helped me become the state championship MVP. I consider him one of the most important teachers and mentors in my life. I wouldn't have experienced half of the success I did without his leadership. I can't think of someone more deserving of this honor. And one anecdote that I really liked was a player who played for another team. She played for Manual, and she said every time that we played Oldham County, Coach Stu would pull me aside afterwards and say, "You played great, here's something you can work on." And finally, when Manual beat Oldham County for a championship, he pulled her aside and said, "You played great, congratulations. Your head fake, I taught everyone how to defend against that. So you're gonna have to work on that next season." And she said that type of influence was so impactful in her life. And that's someone who didn't even play for my dad. Now I know my dad, and I know that these personal testimonies from all of his former players and coaches mean more to him than recounting his wins and championships, but we are here at a Hall of Fame induction ceremony, so I'd be remiss not to discuss some of those successes as well. Along with future Hall of Famer Lauren Hinker, who is sitting next to my dad right now, my dad coached the first ever girls lacrosse team in the state of Kentucky. He went on to lead the Oldham County girls team to 3 back-to-back championships, 2 undefeated seasons, and a top 100 national ranking. He was the Coach of the Year honoree and a perennial choice for various all-star team coaching spots. But arguably the most tangible evidence of my dad's influence on Kentucky lacrosse is sitting in this room tonight. In fact, it's each and every one of us gathered together to celebrate the sport of lacrosse in the state of Kentucky. Because along with Coach Hinker, my dad founded the Youth League over 20 years ago, bringing his beloved sport from Baltimore to the Bluegrass State for young men and women to experience. He gave tirelessly and selflessly his time, energy, and talents to build the league that we celebrate tonight. My dad's influence has spread to every backyard net, every dewy practice field, every shrill whistle blast, every hoisted trophy, and every player, coach, and individual lucky enough to enjoy the sport of lacrosse in the state of Kentucky. So please join me in welcoming my dad, Stu Bailey, as he's inducted into the
Picture of the first girls' team, 1998. Brittany's in there. A lot smaller back then. Wow, thank you so much, everybody. Really, this is quite overwhelming, but and congratulations to the other inductees tonight. Y'all deserved it. Also to the first group that went through, Scott, Pete, that are here. And just thank you so much, guys. Your contribution to this sport is just unbelievable. Yeah, it was I first started playing lacrosse. I didn't play in Baltimore. I played baseball. But I went back every summer, played youth league, or summer league, and played against some pretty good ball players back in Baltimore, I can tell you that. I was a defenseman, a lot thinner back then. And when I moved here, graduated from Georgetown College right up the road, and moved to Louisville in 1976. And 2 years later, I'm reading in the Courier Journal, there's a lacrosse game going on over KCD, Kentucky Country Day. And I went over there, and a bunch of guys are playing, got Louisville on their shirt, never heard of them before. They're playing a team from Cincinnati, getting kicked. And that was the only time I was a spectator, because I joined the team right after that. And that was formed by a guy named Tom Kennedy, alumni of Syracuse. Now, how these guys get here, I have no idea. But he ended up moving to Cincinnati and started the Moeller program, Cincinnati Moeller. And he has recently passed away. Rest in peace, Tom. He's a great player, Teresa Tackman. But he started this whole thing back in '78. And I played for the men's for about 10 years, 11 years. Tom Grady sitting over there was a tackman for our team. Remember those days, Tom? And it went, you know, but as life goes on, they got married, have kids. You know, I'm fortunate I have one daughter. And in 1997, I decided I wanted my daughter was playing soccer. That's fine. That's a fall sport. But thank God, I wish they'd score more. You know, I just wish they'd put the ball in the net. So I decided I wanted to start a youth league. So I called up Steve Stenderson of US Lacrosse in 1997 and said, I want to start a chapter of US Lacrosse in Kentucky. He says, okay, great. Went over some things on the phone. He said, what do you want to call it? Now, living in Louisville, I've become a Louisville fan. No booze for the crowd. I know I'm in enemy territory here, but he said, yeah, I'd like to call it Louisville Lacrosse Association. He kind of hesitated a minute. He goes, well, we want you to take a regional role. I said, could you call it Kentucky Lacrosse? I said, yeah, I'll do it. It paid me, but I did it. And so that started it, and really it was. I can't tell you the luck we had. I don't know how I got his name, but a friend of mine said, you know what? There's a guy that runs the Mall St. Matthews. Played for Virginia. Are you kidding me? That's how I got to know Scott Howe. And Scott had two boys. What were they? Ninth grade? 8th and 9th grade, something like that? 8th and 9th grade. And then I heard another guy in town from Baltimore, a guy named Mike Petty. And he moved back to Baltimore. He had 2 middle school boys, 6th and 7th grade. I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. So Scott's the first high school coach, I'm the first girls coach, and Mike was the first middle school coach. All from Baltimore, we all knew the game. But who would have thought in Kentucky that there was lacrosse in Ohio, Tennessee, Missouri, Indiana. There wasn't any lacrosse in Kentucky. It was just unbelievable how we all got together. As we got our coaches, right? We got the coach. Now, how about, okay, what else we need? Referees. Well, I found Mary Brainerd in Lexington. She's an NCAA ref. Women's ref in Lexington, Kentucky. You gotta be kidding me. I can't tell you how the pieces fell in. So we had those pieces going, but then we said, okay, how do we get the word out? There wasn't any email. Email wasn't around yet. AOL was 1995. This is 1997. How are we going to let them know? First of all, I said, the kids don't know the game. They don't know the game. Scott says, I'm going to go to St. X, go get Trinity, get the kind of foundation we need to do on the boys' side. So I went around, plus there was only one ESPN at that time. One ESPN. Lacrosse was played one time a year, was on ESPN, that was a national championship against Division I boys. That's all. So I put my VHS tape in there. Oh man, Chase, where's Chase? You know, that's those things like that. You know? And we had to do, and one thing the U.S. Lacrosse said is don't talk to the athletic directors. Talk to the principals. They're the ones that will let you in. And I think one of the first principals I went to was Sandy Allen over at Ballard. She was just the most terrific person in the world to let me in. And I go in there at lunchtime. Had a couple sticks, a ball, had our sign up. We're gonna go to EP Sawyer Park. 2 weekends in January, we're gonna have sign-ups. We had no clue how many were gonna show up. And I would sit there during it. Valor had a big class. I mean, I was there for 2.5 hours, playing this tape. Had to look at it, rewind it during commercials. It was ridiculous. But kids would come up, curious, hand them a flyer. Yeah, here's my phone number, here's Scott's phone number, call us if you need any information. And they showed up. I went to North Oldham, or Oldham County, South Oldham, Sacred Heart, Assumption. I mean, all these schools we'd go to, and I'd sit there and pass that flyer. Well, I think the first year we had I think the girls showed up, we had about 30 girls. None of them knew how to play. The boys the same way. Scott, I don't know how many had 30 or 40 showed up. Mike had enough for middle school. We had 2 fields. EP Sawyer Park had 2 fields for us. The boys' field went like this. So you always wanted the ball in the second or fourth quarter because you're running downhill. Okay? The girls, our field was across the road, was like that, like a bowl. And we had to find somebody to mow it. I did some refereeing. I was a terrible ref, by the way, so don't ever ask me to do it. But Mary would come over and do the girls' game, and it just grew from there. We thought, well, coaches thought we could talk to people and everything. The kids, the players were our best recruits. Because next year, oh, I got a buddy who wants to play. Great, come on, let's go. And it just grew and grew and grew. There's a lot of people I was going to mention tonight. The first coaches to help me was Lauren Hinker and McCare Benson. McCare was a West Point grad, played intramural lacrosse, living in Kentucky. I can't believe these lacrosse players. Of course, Scott, and we got to meet a great guy that moved in, Rob Cardone, who helped you out, was refereeing, just a great guy. I think he moved to Nashville. Of course, I mentioned Mike Petty. People on the board like Greg and Bart Chapman. These people, they're all instrumental in the beginning of this that kind of fell out, but still they helped push the rock. And they really did. And I just had so much fun with the girls. A little different. We were at practice one time at Oldham. I noticed 2 girls aren't passing each other. Brittany, come here. Brittany comes up and says, what's wrong? Oh, this is, Marilyn took away Kate's boyfriend. And I laughed, yeah. I said, you're kidding. He said, no, it's bad. I said, you're kidding me. And I brought him over and said, girls, you gotta get over it. Okay, you really gotta get over this, or you're not gonna play. So I had to adjust a lot. I wouldn't really yell. McCare would yell some of them. When I brought Victoria Bennett over, who was a teacher there, she had that teacher's yell. And I made her yell at the girls. Their heads would snap. And also made her coach Brittany. Because if you're coaching your kids, they do not listen to you. They know better than you. Brittany, probably dear, but I gotta let them know. One practice, she comes back from her first summer clinic. Next year, I'm doing a drill, and she corrects me in front of all those players. No, Dad, you're doing it wrong. I'm going, geez, you're gonna be kidding me. No, we had a little talk after that. That's fine. But really, I just have to congratulate everybody that's been a part of this. All you coaches, all you referees, the guys that go out and line the fields, mow the fields, whatever it takes to get it going. And that's what it took. It's a little history lesson I wanted to tell you tonight. I had to leave the game in 2012. I was coaching at Christian Academy for 4 years, and an opportunity came upon me that I couldn't turn it down. And my busy season is January, February, and March, right in the thick of it. And I got about 3 more years, maybe 4 more years before I retire, but I'll be back. I plan on being back and helping out. I got 2 beautiful granddaughters, a 3 and a 6-year-old. My wife's 2 sisters have, among us, 8 granddaughters. So they're in the family. I don't know if my 6-year-old Savannah will play. She's a good swimmer. But the 3-year-old Harper is a terror. And I don't know where I'd play her, but they're just the love of my life. And I just, again, to the board, everybody nominated me, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks to Scott for all your help, to Mike Petty, wherever you are. Shawn, your help on the referee level. If I forgot you, I'm sorry, but it's just so many good people that joined together as a team to make it is what it is today. And, just thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much and congratulations. Our next inductee, a player, Chase Carraro, introduced tonight by his former coach, who's already been mentioned here tonight, Scott Hamill. St. X.
Thanks, everybody. Glad everybody was able to make it. Good crowd. Good evening. I'd like to welcome and congratulate all the inductees tonight. It's a small club. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Chase was a 2-sport letterman at St. X in football and lacrosse. Even though he excelled as a running back and a kick returner, he knew lacrosse would provide him a better opportunity to play a Division I sport. Chase was a 4-year varsity starter at midfield and was a face-off specialist. He was instrumental in St. X winning back-to-back state championships in 2008 and 2009. He is the only 3-time Division I first-team All-State selection, and he was a 2-time U.S. Lacrosse All-American. Inside Lacrosse ranked him as the 26th best midfielder in the nation in his senior season. Chase graduated from St. X in 2009. He was discovered by former Denver coach Jamie Monroe, and he landed a full athletic scholarship to the University of Denver. But while playing for, selfless plug here, Team Stickhead, in his Gate Cup summer tournament in Pennsylvania. He was the first lacrosse player from Kentucky to compete at the Division I level. The funny part is that Jamie Monroe never got to coach Chase on the field. His Hall of Fame coach, Bill Tierney, who had won 6 NCAA championships at Princeton, was Chase's new coach. There's a rumor that had been going around that basically stated that while he was on his way to Denver, Coach Tierney was overheard wondering out loud, who the heck gives a full scholarship to a kid from Kentucky? Well, that first year, Chase ended up taking more faceoffs than any player on the team. As a sophomore, Chase scored 19 goals, had 2 assists. He won 58% of his faceoffs, picked up 100 ground balls. He earned second-team All-League honors in the Eastern College Athletic Conference, and he was an honorable mention All-American through the United States Intercollegiate Lacrosse Association. 2012 was even stronger. Chase posted a career-high face-off winning percentage of 62%, ground ball total of 112. He also had 14 goals and 6 assists. He was named the ECAC Specialist of the Year. He was first-team ECAC All-League, and he was a second-team All-American. As a senior and a team co-captain, Chase played a significant part of the season with a knee injury. Despite being less than 100%, he collected second-team ECAC All-League honors and helped Denver achieve and advance to postseason play. In each of Chase's 4 seasons, the Pioneers advanced to the NCAA tournament with 2 Final Four appearances. Chase established himself as one of the finest lacrosse players at Denver and is the all-time in the all-time career record book for multiple categories. He was number 3 in career ground balls with 329. He was number 4 in ground balls per game, averaging 5.22. He was number 4, the career face-off winning percentage of 57.1. He was number 4 in most face-offs won in a game. He won 22 face-offs 2 times and collected 17 ground balls along with winning those face-offs. And that won against the Little Sisters of the Poor. And that was University of North Carolina and Loyola, big-time lacrosse. Chase has faced off more than any player in the history of Denver lacrosse. He faced off 1,262 times in his career, with a high of 404 times his sophomore year. I mean, that makes my back hurt just saying it. I mean, just imagine being in a car crash 404 times in like 3.5 months. I mean, it's insane. He was a team leader in ground balls in 2011, 2012, and 2013. Chase's career, he scored 39 goals and had 13 assists in his career. And I would say he single-handedly evolved the FOGO into what I like to call the FOBO, which is a face-off, fast-break offense. Chase earned his bachelor's degree in communication in 2013, and he was selected 13th overall in the Major League Lacrosse draft. He became the first Kentuckian to compete professionally in lacrosse. Chase played 2 seasons with the Ohio Machine before retiring. Chase's retirement from playing didn't end his lacrosse influence as he continued to coach and teach the game with various organizations such as Trilogy, Team Stickhead, and Denver Elite, as well as some inner-city programs in the city of Denver, where he resides right now. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the man who showed the rest of the country and Bill Tierney that, yes, we do play lacrosse in Kentucky. And as a member of the Hall of Fame, I welcome you into this special club. Chase Carraro.
Nice job, Chase.
Thank you so much. Let me just start off by saying, how extremely honored and grateful I am to be here tonight. Not only to be here tonight, but to be the first player honored, and to have represented Kentucky throughout my whole career. And I really want to say thank you to my parents, my girlfriend Becca, and my siblings, not all of whom could be here tonight, but who have all played a major role in loving me and supporting me throughout my career. And to be quite honest, none of this would be possible without their influence. I'll never forget my first experience at a lacrosse camp, at a serious recruiting camp in the Northeast. Early on in high school, it was the first time I ever heard they play lacrosse in Kentucky, and it was a question that I'd be asked many times throughout those early recruiting days of going to camps and trying to leave an impression on college coaches. Experiences like those definitely made me realize that, number one, nobody in lacrosse was going to give me the benefit of the doubt as a kid from Kentucky. A D1 coach might take a flyer on a kid from Baltimore, but a kid from Kentucky was going to take a bit more convincing. And number two, that it'd most likely be the exact opposite. I'd probably need to be twice as good to catch a coach's eye at a Division I school. And lucky for me, I was born into a family of six siblings. I'm the youngest of six, and four out of the five all played college sports, so a very highly competitive family. So when I kind of knew that a Kentucky kid had never played at the Division I level, I took that as a challenge, to say the least, and that was largely because of kind of a competitive environment growing up with so many older brothers and sisters that were so athletic and so gifted in many ways. And that's how I ultimately saw the lacrosse opportunity, was as a challenge, as this challenge that nobody had really done before, and an opportunity for me to make a name for myself. And the result was approaching playing kids from hotbeds and those recruiting camps with a serious chip on my shoulder. And that chip on my shoulder, it's not to say that I was angry or anything like that. It's really a motivation that I could sort of prove to people that I could play this game, no matter if I was from Kentucky or from Baltimore or from New York or New Jersey. And ultimately, prove that good lacrosse players can come from anywhere in the country, if they're willing to put in the work, especially. And again, luckily for me, that approach worked quite well. And I was able to get recruited and have a great career at DU before being drafted into the MLL. And it kind of leads me to where I want to end this with, I really don't think my career would have been as successful as it was if I wasn't from the great state of Kentucky. And the reason I say that is, a little story to go along with it. In 2012, Inside Lacrosse they had an article on the game's kind of up-and-coming players from non-traditional areas, of which I was included. And in my piece, Coach Tierney, who has 30 plus years coaching the Division I game, he's won 6 national championships. He was quoted as saying that I've never seen a player practice harder. He said, I practiced harder than any player he had ever seen previously. And that's also something he told me from time to time out on the practice field. And, at the time, as a college player, hopping off the field, tired, worn out, I would just kind of smile and say, thanks, Coach. But I think if I could go back, I might say, no, Coach, that's just how hard you have to play to get here from Kentucky.
Our next inductee, a builder of the game, Dr. Tom Donley from Bowling Green. He is introduced tonight by David Bruns.
Thank you very much for having me, and it is Dr. Tim Donley. I don't know if the typo. It's funny, I don't have this in my notes, but one of our first team shirts that we had was Greenwood Lacrosse, not Greenwood Lacrosse, which was our school name. So we're kind of used to this, so that's okay. Coming from Bowling Green, Kentucky, which, as Chase said, is not a hotbed of lacrosse. And I just want to make one comment to not take away the thunder from Mr. Hamill here, and who's going to introduce him. But I would not know Dr. Tim Donley without Shawn and his matchmaking abilities. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, went to school in Idaho, and my wife is from Kentucky, and I was moving out to Bowling Green, and I shot an email to Mr. Hamill and said, I play lacrosse, I want to keep on playing it, doing something, coaching. And he just by chance, Dr. Donley was in the market for a coach, matched us up, and hopefully Dr. Donley references this because he's a better storyteller than me, but the first impression that we had together of each other. But I just want to thank Tim for taking a chance on me with creating the program in Bowling Green. I moved to Kentucky, like I said, and he just let me coach. He is an organizer, he is a motivator. He just said, you do the coaching, I don't know lacrosse. You do lacrosse, I'll do the principals, I'll work with them, I'll work with the lines, the transportation, everything behind the scene that any coach is very thankful to hand off to a parent or whoever can take those tasks. So he set us up in 2008 for complete success, along with his two sons who motivated him to get involved in this wonderful game that we all love. So, along with what Mr. Kemp said in his speech, is that Tim teaches life lessons through lacrosse. Have it be grilling hot dogs on the back of his car on Friday afternoons after practice, and knowing what brings teenage boys to practice is lacrosse, but also food to wrap it up. Have it be him cracking jokes on the bus when he knows that the camaraderie, the connection that we all have is bigger than just the sport. Making witness shirts along with the LeBron James era of the late 2000s. Witness, Greenwood's first win. And it's had the date on the back, 3/31/2009. I still have the shirt in my basement. And my wife wears it to bed. And it is a constant motivation for me to think back to what lacrosse does. The connections, the motivation. It took us a whole season to get there. Our first season, 0 wins, but we stuck through it thanks to Dr. Donley. And again, offering to buy a bus, literally, for the team to get from place to place when the school and the principal said we have no access, we have no help offered. He went as far as said, well, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to go buy a bus then. He didn't, thank goodness, but he was willing to go above and beyond, and he still is 10 years later, moving the game in a non-traditional hotbed. Tim did all of this, and he continues to do this, all while raising 4 great children, running his private practice of oral periodontistry.
That's good enough, brother.
Yeah. And I'm a ECE special ed teacher, I should be able to express that. Lecturing around the world on the importance of oral health. He continued the help after 4 years of having his sons in the program. Graduated in 2012, his second son. Here's 2008, he is still helping the program progress on the lower level of youth lacrosse, high school, wherever it needs to be. Similar to the first speech that was given, I crowdsourced the founding members in 2008. I said, what do you think of when you hear Dr. Donley? What do you think of? He changed my life. Senior night, he made a special introduction for me, yet I didn't even know he knew my name. And he made it so special for me to play a senior, or come in as a senior to a sport that I'd never played, and just having my name on the loudspeaker. Andrew Shannyfell is who I'm referencing, Dr. Donley. And he went on to graduate from college. He has a beautiful wife, he had a great life, and he attested it back to that senior night of Dr. Donley taking the time to have a fun night to get him involved in the sport that we all love. The word were grit. He taught me grit. His charisma was contagious and is contagious. The passion, the inspiration that he showed me that I emulate in my practice of life to become a strong young man like Mr. Kels mentioned. So very similar to the voice and the mission of what we're all here together for is what Dr. Donley was doing in 2008 and continues to do. And I am so honored to represent all those men that he's touched in the 10 years and their inspiration, and he will continue to do. So Dr. Donley, I need you to come up here.
Thank you so much. I'm fine with calling me Tom rather than Tim. You have to realize that my last name is Donley, and when you spell check that, it comes up as donkey. So Tom is a blessing. I'll go with anything. I kind of keep waiting to realize that there might have been some mistake that has me here. I'm waiting for Steve Harvey to come out and say, "Hey, you announced the wrong winner." And the reason I say that is if you made a list of the people that have had the greatest impact on lacrosse in Kentucky, at the top of that list certainly would be anybody whose last name is Howe, which I don't qualify for that. Chase Carraro. I have no right whatsoever to claim to have assisted Chase and all he's accomplished on the field. I claim that. But I don't have any right to claim that. Chase, if you ever happen to get a late night phone call from a bar and someone asking you if in fact you went to the Tim Donley Face-Off Academy when you were growing up, I would appreciate you saying yes. In addition to the fact that you might not know this, I did coin the phrase FOGO. That was me. Stu Bailey, Greg Schuler. Greg Schuler's my inspiration. You talk about a person. Greg does at the state level what I do at our little Bowling Green level. That is the job that nobody else wants to do, but everybody wants to complain. And the thing I admire about Greg is Greg has always he's been a person that's willing to make decisions and to make decisions with integrity. I've tried to model my program after the way Greg has done that. I truly, sincerely appreciate that. The reason I'm in lacrosse in no small part is because of Shawn Hamill. I had absolutely no idea what lacrosse was. My two boys decided that they wanted to start a lacrosse team, and that was on a Saturday. I figured by Monday that too shall pass. And by Monday night they still wanted to do it. And one of the first calls I made was to a guy named Shawn Hamill, who made it as easy as possible for us to do that. And indeed, if we've achieved any success in our little program in Southern Kentucky, it's due in no small part to the inspiration and the effort that you put in, which has been absolutely fabulous. I'm really here tonight because of my father and because of my two sons. It was my dad that taught me that every once in a while you're asked to do a job, and you do it because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to. The most rewarding jobs are the ones that you do that are going to benefit a whole lot of other people. This has been just a fabulous, fabulous ride for me. My two sons are the ones that got me involved in lacrosse. I think they'll tell you today that it was one of the absolute best parts of them growing up. They become two outstanding young men. My oldest son, who took the first ever face-off for a team out of Southern Kentucky and scored the second ever goal in the history of a team from Southern Kentucky, is currently earning a PhD at the University of Oregon, has turned into a magnificent young man. My younger son, who scored the first ever goal for a team out of Southern Kentucky, is beginning his career at medical school. And I would like to think in no small part that lacrosse really played a role in helping them become the best citizens that they are. Make no mistake about it, I was involved in lacrosse, not from the competition standpoint as much, but from the building of lacrosse, realizing the benefits that lacrosse, the unique benefits that you can get through lacrosse that you just can't get with any other activity. But with that said and done, I fully embrace the competitiveness of lacrosse. My younger son still holds the record for the most goals by a team in Southern Kentucky in a single game. And currently, whenever anyone on the team gets close, I take them out. It seems reasonable, correct?
He's built that on integrity.
If you made a list of the people that have been the giants in lacrosse in Southern Kentucky, my name wouldn't be on the top. The fact of the matter is my job was easy. All I did was write the checks. I was fortunate enough that I surrounded myself with people who similarly shared my dad's philosophy and did jobs that nobody else wanted to do. Indeed, David Bruns, David was our first coach. Shawn Hamill said there's this guy moving here from Oregon that has a lacrosse history, interested in playing lacrosse. You guys are starting a team, you need a coach, which I didn't even realize we needed a coach. That's how backwards we were. And he said this guy's moving here from Oregon, and I met this David Bruns guy who showed up all tatted up with his ripped Oregon hat, with a true lax bro mentality. And I walked out of that lunch and I said to my son, oh dear God. and how fabulous that despite the fact that I'm only 10 years older than David. Is it 10? Or 40? 40, I'm sorry, it's 40. Slightly older than David. David is my mentor. David has gone on to become a person that inspires me, one of my closest friends, and the absolute consummate family man. And for all of that, I truly say thank you to you. Brett Kepler was a player for us, was a nitty-gritty, tough-nosed player. And at the end of one of these games where we finally did win a game and he willed us to victory, his father said to me, you know, I think Brett's going to be really important for the history, for the future of lacrosse in Bowling Green, Kentucky area. And his dad was wonderfully prophetic because Brett then went on to play collegiate lacrosse and then also came back and selflessly coached for the last 3 years for our team. What I'm most proud of with Brett is the fact that he too is just an absolutely wonderful family man. He is has child number 1 with child number 2. Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. Child number, I know this is being broadcast on ESPN. 147. It's ESPN 147. And for that, Brett, I say thank you. Sam Miranda is also with me tonight, and Sam would be on that list above my name. Sam had no ties to us, no ties to Bowling Green, but loved the game of lacrosse and selflessly gave as a coach to our team and inspired a significant number of people. I'm sure one day Sam will become a wonderful father. Sam is not married. He interviews potential spouses, sometimes 2 or 3 every weekend. And when that day comes, I'll be your biggest supporter. And to Sam, I say thank you. These are the real people that deserve recognition, the people who have given selflessly and who do these jobs because if they didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. I sincerely thank the Kentucky Lacrosse Association for giving me this recognition, but more importantly, for giving me an opportunity to become a better person, to develop better friendships, to develop a deep love for the greatest game of the world, lacrosse. Thank you very much.
Tim, sorry. Thank you very much.
That's okay, Mildred.
I've already been called Dick Clark. All right, our next inductee, an official, Shawn Hamill, introduced tonight by Phil Brock.
Good evening. I want to first of all thank the Kentucky Lacrosse Association and Jennifer Castle and Rachel Platt and Jeff Jett for putting this on and honoring these inductees to the Kentucky Lacrosse Hall of Fame. It's a pleasure to be a part of this and a treasure to see these people that are honored this evening. There are a lot of stories and experiences that I have with Shawn Hamill throughout the years in Kentucky Lacrosse. However, to honor the master of ceremonies, I'm going to keep it short this evening. Shawn is truly at the top of my list of people that have impacted me both on and off the field in this game of lacrosse. But as I look around this room tonight and as I came here, it just kind of is all overwhelming because in the room, one guy who's not here is Coach Terry Justice, who was on it a couple of years ago, introduced me to this game. But the list of people that have impacted me, Coach Al took me under his wing and taught me the X's and O's, and Pete Schroeder, just whenever you call Pete, he's like, yeah, sure, come on over. I'm sure both of these guys taught us a little, but didn't teach us everything. So it's kind of cool to be a part of them. Timmy Yessen, a long time ago, took a few guys in that wanted to get into officiating, and we got that off the ground. I was proud to be a part of that. Stu Bailey, just being a friend in lacrosse and just your dedication kind of catapulted me in this lacrosse industry, and I'm truly we all are standing on the shoulders of giants as we move through the sport. So I just want to thank you guys for being there. Shawn's support for this game and his community, it's amazing. It's second to none. I look at him every day. He gets up, he hits the ground running, and his passion is to bring people together in a community. And community, hard work, character, and friendship are characteristics that that possess Shawn. And he truly is a mentor to me. All of his passion and all of his character, I believe, comes from a guy that he talks about I never met, but his dad, Bob Hamill, ran a small barbershop in Maryland, and he talked about him all the time. Whenever something came up with lacrosse, about character and community, he talked about Bob Hamill. And I can only imagine from the stories that the people coming in and out of his barbershop, that was the place to be. And you take the barbershop off and put Stickhead Lacrosse in Sports, that was the place to be. I can remember KLA was just getting started, and the place to come to get in the know was Stickhead Lacrosse in Sports. And Shawn Hamill was right there at the forefront, answering all the calls, because at that time, KLA didn't have a website. Where do you go to get information about leagues? It was there. And Shawn was there to answer all the calls and direct people to get coaches to teams and teams that need coaches and players. Just, what do we need to play the sport? So Shawn was always there at the forefront, guiding these kids and these players and these parents into the game. And I'm sure if Bob Hamill was here today, he'd be proud of you, Shawn, no doubt. Shawn's love for his wife Holly and his children Connor and Kate are second to none. You can see it on the smiles on their faces. You can hear it in the laughter as they grow in themselves in the lacrosse community. On a lighter note, building a community has its challenges, and sometimes, like Troy Kemp says, you got to hold people accountable. And Shawn, I was on the recipient end of being held accountable in 2010 state championship game. He's reffing, I'm coaching. After a rain delay on Friday night, we were playing the next day, and we were up 9-3 in 4 short minutes with 9 minutes left in the game. Mano scores 3 goals. I'm a little unnerved, the team's unnerved, and I can remember grabbing my glasses off my face and saying, "Hey Shawn, you need these for the rest of the game?" And in his accountability way, just kind of smiled at me. He's like, "No, but you need one of these." And he threw his flag as high as he could. It was like a yellow rocket just going up into the atmosphere. And I've never seen a flag fly that high. And I'm pretty sure it hadn't hit the ground yet. But he slapped me with a conduct foul, kept me in check. We won the game, all good. So I'm truly standing on the shoulders of the Giants. And tonight I'm standing here, I'm grateful for Shawn's friendship. Courtney and I, my lovely wife, are proud to be his and Holly's circle in this community. And I'm extremely honored to introduce Shawn Hamill into the 2018 Kentucky Lacrosse Hall of Fame.
And some big shoes to fill after all these great speeches, so I'll do my best. Troy, I might have to get with you after this in case that gray matter up here is not clicking for me. You can drop some knowledge on me.
Drink some water.
Yeah.
Not yeast infested water.
Certainly a great evening, and it's wonderful to be a part of this. One of the themes I think we all are hearing tonight is it's not necessarily about one individual. It's not about me. It's not about the other inductees tonight, but it's about the efforts of everybody that's been a part of the great sport of lacrosse. So hopefully tonight I will convey that theme continuously, because yes, I was one of those individuals that have connected people like you've heard, but so many other people have done the same thing prior to me and after me. That's what truly is that I'm thankful for, and that has been so wonderful to be a part of those friendships, those moments where you can connect to individuals that take the sport on to other areas throughout the state. I would like to say thank you to Rachel for serving as our MC tonight, for Troy for being here, the Kentucky Lacrosse Association board, and everybody associated with the chapter for putting on this special evening. To my fellow inductees, thank you for your efforts. You each have touched this sport in a unique way, and for that, it's a truly honor to go in to this Hall of Fame class with you. I was telling Chase's parents earlier, or his father, I'm glad Chase went in on this class, because if it was without him, I don't think we could have had this reception on that side of the room. So it's good to have Chase here to kind of liven up the group and sell some extra tickets. To the inductees from the first class, Mary Brainer, Terry Justice, Scott Howe, forgetting somebody here, Steve Auden, thank you. Pete Schroeder, thank you for leading the, helping pave the path, so to speak. Without you guys, as you've heard tonight, a lot of that, what we know about lacrosse in Kentucky, that wouldn't be the case. So thank you, and I'm honored to be joining you in this special recognition. It's hard to believe that I'm a part of a Hall of Fame, because unlike Tom, Donley, and Greg Schuler, I don't feel like I'm old enough to be in a Hall of Fame yet. But thanks anyway, I'll take the recognition. But no, with all joking aside, it's been 30 years. I was reflecting back, and I got to be introduced to the sport over 30 years ago. And being from Maryland, you would have thought maybe I had a stick in my hand at an early age, and that wasn't the case. Where I grew up in the state of Maryland on the Eastern Shore, the sport hadn't really made its way to my hometown of Salisbury, Maryland. We had lacrosse at Salisbury University, but none of the youth or high school programs played lacrosse. So I transferred high schools between my sophomore and junior year, And that's when I was able to learn the game of lacrosse. So a little bit of a late bloomer, but it's truly been a great experience. From that opportunity, I did get to play a little bit collegiately, carried on to grad school in Cincinnati, Ohio, which brought me to this part of the country. And from there, I was able to be a coach, to be a referee, and now to serve as a small business owner in the game of lacrosse. And it's been a great experience, to say the least. Some of those early memories, when I was thinking back about the game of lacrosse, I can remember my first day being approached about playing lacrosse. I was a soccer player, and my coach at the time was new to my high school, and he kept being very persistent about me playing lacrosse. I went to a small private school, and I said, "Coach, I don't know anything about lacrosse. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to catch." Our team had won like 40 games in a row. We were a very good private school team on the Eastern Shore, and all my friends played, all my classmates played, and I couldn't go out there and play and make a fool out of myself. But he kept pushing, and eventually I was given this set of equipment I had no clue how to put on. They were running around the field yelling "ball and release," and I had no clue what that meant. I was turning to my teammates going, "What the heck do I do?" But eventually it kind of clicked, and it's brought me full circle to tonight, and it's just been a wonderful experience. So many great friends, so many special times that lacrosse has allowed me to be a part of. You hear a lot that lacrosse is a fraternity, and it truly is. It brings people together from different parts of the world, from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, if you will. And I wouldn't be here today, I wouldn't be friends with so many of these people in the room if it wasn't for lacrosse. And it's just been such an amazing part of who I am, and for that I'm extremely thankful. A few people that I'd like to take a moment to thank, I mentioned him but not by name, is my high school coach, Jim Townsend. Coach Townsend is the current head coach at RPI in upstate New York, and he had a way of dealing with a 16-year-old knucklehead from the Eastern Shore that had a unique way of getting his point across. Some people say I still do, but I appreciate the time that he taught me the game and allowed me to learn how to play the game so I could actually play a little bit in college. So for that, I would like to thank Coach Townsend for teaching me the game of lacrosse and the opportunity to learn what it's taught me. While attending Washington College, I was lucky enough to work under a gentleman named Dennis Berry. Dennis wasn't involved in the game of lacrosse, but he was my mentor, if you will, in college, and he had a unique way of seeing the attributes of somebody and pushing them and basically helping them along their path, if you will. And if it wasn't for Dennis, I would have never applied to graduate school. That just wasn't something that I was going to do. And Dennis said, you really need to think about what I do, because I see a lot of the same characteristics in you when I was your age, and you would be great at this profession. So he encouraged me to apply to grad school, which I was awarded a graduate assistantship at Xavier University. Go Musketeers, they're ranked 5th in the country right now. Hopefully there's no Bearcat fans in the crowd. But unfortunately, Dennis is no longer with us, but he was a tremendous mentor to me, and I really appreciate all he did. Like I said, I moved on to Xavier, and I worked for a gentleman named Jim Ray. And Jim was my boss at the time when I was in grad school, but I worked for him 2 years as I attended grad school. And after grad school, he offered me a full-time employment. So although lacrosse wasn't the conduit, if you will, he still influenced me to work at Xavier University and stay in the Cincinnati area, which kind of, I guess I owe him a big thank you, because if I hadn't stayed in Cincinnati, I wouldn't have met my wife, Holly. And so probably, well, I don't think I'd be in the Hall of Fame in some other chapter. So for that, I owe Jim probably a big thank you for locking me into the state of Kentucky. I'd probably be back in Maryland enjoying some steamed crabs and cold beer instead of horses and bourbon. As I mentioned earlier, several people have made an impact on my 18 years here in Kentucky. There's a few individuals here tonight that I would like to recognize and to say thank you. Tim Yessen, thank you. Thank you for your professionalism, your leadership, your commitment to growing the game. Funny story about Tim and I know we're going over, but real quick, we had a coach in Lexington that came up to us at a coaching convention or coaching rules meeting, and he asked me about a rule, and I didn't really know the answer to the rule, to his question. And so I said, I'd get back to you, coach. And he was, like I said, he was a Lexington coach. And if any of you know Tim is he's very articulate, he's very thorough on his emails, they're super well written. And so I scanned the copy of the rule book, the page out of the rule book. And there's a gentleman that is very famous in lacrosse officiating. His name's Frenchie Julian. And they have the Frenchie Julian Award at the U.S. Lacrosse Convention for a referee of the highest standards. So when this coach moved to town, he moved to town from New York, I believe, and he came up to me at a game at Lexington Catholic, and he started dropping Frenchie's name. And I'm looking at Greg and Tim like, who is this guy? And he just wouldn't stop. And this is the same coach that came up to me at this meeting. So I scanned the page of the rule book, and I said, I emailed it to Tim. And I said, Tim, tell Frenchie he can't do that play. Well, you heard me what I said about Tim being like very professional and really thorough. Tim tries to send the email on to him, doesn't go through. So what does Tim do? Tim sends it again, but he forgets to delete my comment. So this coach gets the comment that I say at the bottom of the page, and he knew Frenchie from his time in New York. So a couple weeks later, I get the pleasure of doing this coach's game, refereeing, and he just waited. And the first time he had the opportunity, the Frenchie talked like this. No, that's not how you do it. So of course I got the no, that's not how you do it in no uncertain terms. So Tim, thanks for that that plug there. I kind of joked earlier about Chase and the Carraro family, and I just would like to say thank you to them for being a friend. And Marty, you're truly a friend, and I thank you for that. I just wanted to let you know. Several guys that I've worked with over the years in my business, guys like Ryan Kaiser, Scott Miller, they work for me, but I don't consider them as employees. They're more as friends. So thank you for your time and efforts. Your friendship is very valuable to me. Several of my colleagues on the officiating field are here tonight. Guys like Greg and Tim and Drew and Chris and all my other fellow officiating colleagues. A much deserved thank you for your years of working both on and off the field. How much time do we have? Probably the person that I've spent the most time with besides my family is Scott Howell. We've operated a business together for the past 15 years at Stickhead Lacrosse and Sports. I met Scott in 2010, 2000, when I moved to Kentucky, and unemployed, not knowing a soul in Kentucky, we moved here for my wife's employment. I said, you know, I'm gonna look up the lacrosse chapter. And I Googled, or whatever you did back then, I looked up the lacrosse scene, and lo and behold, I met Scott at the mall, and basically a few years later we decided to open up Stickhead Lacrosse and Sports, and it's been a great experience. But you know, Scott was a board member at that time, and we ran a tournament with Stu's help and Lauren and a bunch, Tom Grady, and a bunch of other individuals, called the Icebreaker Lacrosse Festival. And I helped out with that event until the chapter decided to turn it over to Scott and I running it through our business. And it was the second week of March, and if you know anything about the weather here in Kentucky, in the second week of March, you can get anything from 70 degrees to a snowstorm. And so after about 10 years of running this tournament, between the 10 inches of snow the day before the tournament with 70 teams coming to town, or the monsoon one year where it flooded us out on Sunday, I looked at Scott and I said, I'm not running this thing anymore. And so he had opened up another business, so he and his son operated this tournament for a year. I ran it for, I think I helped run it for 5 or 6 or 7 years. He lasted 1 year with his son. Said, no way, Jose, I'm not doing this anymore. So anyway, I'd like to thank Scott for your friendship. We don't always see eye to eye, like some other people in the room probably don't either, but for the most part, even though with the ups and downs, it's truly been a pleasure to be your business partner, but more importantly, your friend. Originally Stickhead, and I'll try to wrap this up, originally Stickhead was located on a Blankenbaker Parkway in Louisville, Kentucky, and when I was in the early days, I was there a lot, 6-7 days a week, and one day this guy walks in, I mean, just pumped up about lacrosse. And I was like, who in the heck is this guy? He was telling me about this and about how he could get in touch with lacrosse in Kentucky, and how he played for Terry Justice at UK, and how he was from Arizona and he was playing lacrosse out there. And I was like, man, this guy is on steroids or something. This guy can't get enough about lacrosse. So anyway, Phil, you know, that was the best story I could tell tonight, because all the other ones, my kids are here and we couldn't tell those. But he turned out to be a fellow coach, a fellow official, and a true friend. So Phil, thank you. I wanted to thank my mom and dad. My mom couldn't be here this evening, but just count the countless hours that we as parents put in for our kids. She did that for me, and I'm truly appreciative of her and my father's efforts to allow me to learn this game of lacrosse and be associated with it. So I thank her for the selfless sacrifice. As I wrap up, as I said earlier about the theme of lacrosse, it's not about me. It's not about the other inductees tonight. It's about much more than that. It's about a group of people that come together for a passion that they have. And it's about a teacher. It's about a coach. It's about an aunt or uncle or a father or a mother or a grandfather or a grandmother. And as I heard somebody say earlier, behind every good man, there's a great woman, right, Peggy? Hey, you started it.
Robin, you're killing me.
So, Holly, she's that great woman behind me. She allows me to do this, sometimes grudgingly, but I thank her. To my kids that are here this evening, Kate and Connor, thank you for giving up your dad so he can go around the state of Kentucky and do what he loves to do. And again, I'll just close in saying thank you to the Kentucky Lacrosse Association. Thanks the board members for this special night, and I appreciate being included in this honor. And it's truly my honor to be a part of the class of 2018. Thank you, and God bless.
Tonight, another official who also served in the ministry for 25 years. We are talking about Greg Schuler, being introduced tonight by Tim Yessen.
Good evening, I'm Tim Yessen. I am the official that sent the Frenchie Julian letter. Shawn will never let me live that down. One of the few things that I've done wrong, I think. It's my privilege to introduce Greg Schuler tonight for his induction into the Hall of Fame. The best way to describe Greg is really to talk a little bit about some of our history. We've got a long history. Greg and I were assigned a game on Easter. Never forget this. We accepted our game as an NCAA game. We're assigned this game on Easter, and so my kids were young, and it wasn't the best setting for a lacrosse game, but we hopped in the car and we drove down together for this Easter game. And with Greg's background, we naturally started talking about Easter. And I really, if you know me, you know I don't like Easter at all. I don't know if it's the peeps or what, but I really don't like Easter. I never liked it. And so we started talking about the Trinity instead of talking about peeps. We got a little deep on the conversation, and I really don't understand it, and I still don't. And even though Greg and I meet once a week, twice a week throughout the years, I still don't understand it, even though he tries to explain it to me every chance he gets. So it occurred to me when Greg asked me to introduce him tonight, I said, you know, let's take that theme of the Trinity, and Greg's got his own Trinity. He probably doesn't know this, but he does have a Trinity when he works with our lacrosse officials and in the other things he does. So I'm going to take you through Greg's Trinity. The first thing that he talks about is professionalism. And for you officials that are out there, you know what I'm talking about when Greg gives the speech on professionalism. I think I've heard it 3 times, Shawn 3 or 4 times at least, but it's fantastic. With professionalism, Greg talks about the little things you do every day that make you a professional. Not the pretense of doing the one big thing, but the small things you do every day. Getting in the rule book every day. Reading up on mechanics every day. All that sort of thing. Those little things that do that affirm that you're a professional. Kind of like those of you like me who might load up on Mother's Day with candy and flowers, but you don't do the dishes or take out the trash every single day like you should. It's those little things, those little affirmations. And Greg's really good. He gave the first speech when Greg first became president of BLOA, our Lacrosse Officials Association. He gave the first speech on professionalism. And I was looking around the room, and it really was agog with people. Their eyes were open, their mouths were open. They were really shocked at how well Greg did. It was more like a homily, I guess. And Greg's background, it was like that. But he really brought that down to what we're doing as lacrosse officials. What are you doing every day? Are you in the rule book constantly? All that sort of thing. But it's beyond that. It's life, it's your craft, it's your career, all those sorts of things. And so again, that first part of it, Greg's Trinity, is professionalism, and he does it well. The second thing that Greg, it was his next speech that he gave, his next homily, was on willingness versus willfulness. They've got the same root, will, but they have opposite meanings. Willingness is the ability, or your willingness to open up to criticism, to understanding what you can do better. And willfulness is just the opposite. I'm going to let you on a little secret with officials. Young officials start out, they don't know anything, as you probably know for you coaches out there. This is a well known among you. But what's not known is when they hit the 4 or 5 year mark, they become extremely dangerous. They think they know everything, and they actually are still learning, but they don't know that. It's their field, they're going to make those calls, and they're going to tell you how the game's going to be. Greg's speech on willingness tries to short circuit that 4 to 5 year funk that most officials have. He's done an excellent job of engaging those officials during that time to keep them moving forward to become better officials later on. Like I said, if it's left untreated, they'll generally recover, but it's really difficult to officiate with them. The final part of Greg's Trinity, this is my favorite one, is how you do one thing is generally how you do other things. And to describe this, probably talk about a game that Greg and I had. This one was assigned down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I'd never been to Gatlinburg. Didn't have that pleasure until we drove 3 hours down there to do that on a snowy evening, late at night. And we had a guy that we hadn't done a game with yet, a guy from Tennessee. And so we sat down, we were going over our pregame, normally about 2 hours before the game, and everything looked normal with this guy. He was from New Jersey, so he had some background in the sport. He was experienced, older. He seemed to have a good grasp of the rules. And the last thing you generally do when you leave the locker room to go onto the field 30 minutes before game time is you put your cap on. Well, this guy put his cap on like he was wearing a clown cap. It was tilted to the side and barely sticking on top of his hat. And if you know Greg, if you played poker with Greg, Greg's got to tell that if you don't know him well enough, it's a slight crinkling of the nose. You family members, I know, have probably seen Greg do the slight crinkling of the nose. Well, this official preceded us out the door, and Greg looked at me with a crinkled nose, and I knew exactly what he was thinking, and we got the kind of official we thought we had that night. He officiated like he had a clown hat on his head. It was tough. So that final part, how you do one thing is generally how you do the other things, is the third part of Greg's Trinity. Greg has applied that third part to his work with lacrosse in general and officiating specifically. He's raised the level of officiating in Kentucky beyond anything we could have imagined. Regionally, we're well known for what we do, thanks in large part to Greg's work and Shawn's work, I should mention as well. He's applied it to his work as president of Lila, board member of Lila, the president of KLA, and as the Boys and Girls High School Commissioner. In addition to his long-standing role as sub-district coordinator for lacrosse officials. His body of work's impressive, and it brings to mind a quote from C.S. Lewis, and I'm not going to quote it directly, but generally it goes like this: you can't change where you've been, but you certainly can change where you're going. And I think that Greg, little did I realize when we first had our conversation over coffee so many years ago, when I said, Greg, have any interest in officiating? Greg said, I might have an interest in doing that. That might be fun. That Greg's path would take him through what he's done and his impressive work that he's done for Kentucky Lacrosse. It's my privilege to introduce our final inductee, Greg Schuler, for his well-deserved entrance into the Hall of Fame.
Well, now you know why I don't want to come back to Northern Kentucky. With some great people down here in Lexington and Louisville and Bowling Green, and it's just great to be here tonight. Thanks, and it's a delight to be here. It's even more delightful because I have 5 of my 6 siblings here with me with their spouses, and for them to come all down here this evening to be with us and me as we celebrate just means a lot to me. So thank you, and I love you all very much. Thank you. I also am very humbled by being invited into that group. I know others have said this as well, but certainly with the first group of people who I thought were outstanding and great pioneers in the game, and I know Scott's here and Pete's here, and then of course my fellow inductees from this class as well. So again, it's just a delight to be in that group of people, to be around those kinds of people. Just enriches your life. It fills you up at a level. And I hope, even if you're not with a lover of lacrosse, I would be willing to bet you most of my family has never seen a lacrosse game. Although, well, my brother-in-law's an Indian, so he's all over this, he's all over this game now. But I'll bet they've never seen it. But all I want to say to you is, it doesn't make any difference, does it? When you hear people speak about their commitment, doesn't it fill us all up? It's something beautiful. So it's great to be with that group. The only thing I would ask with a KLA is, God, somehow, if there are going to be pictures of all of us put together in some same spot sometime, like in a brochure or a booklet like tonight, or maybe on the KLA website, would you please put my picture on the other side from Scott Howe? Because I don't want to listen to him yelling at me, Greg, you missed that call, you missed that call. I want to be on the other side, bro. Okay, I want to be on the other side.
But you don't listen anyway.
I know, but I still don't want to. Shawn and I have been to many lacrosse conventions. And if you ever go to a convention, and we've always gone to the college, they don't have it anymore, but the college officials meeting. And we had to go to one of those meetings, so we went to the national one. And oftentimes, we would sit together, of course, and there's some other people with us, but Shawn and I seem to be the common denominator. And we would be there, and of course they would have awards at the beginning of the meeting. And so, the Frenchie Julian Award, some guy would come up and he'd start to thank this person, and then that person, and then this group, and then that group, and then the janitor was going to be thanked, and then the waiters were going to be thanked, and then and Shawn and I would look at what I wrote. Would somebody just come up and say, I want to thank everybody who has ever had anything to do with my entire life, and be done in one sentence? Would that be good? Shawn, if I were done right there, would that be a good sentence? Well, guess what? It didn't happen then. And it ain't happening now. I do want to thank, of course, the KLA selection committee. I don't have the slightest idea how I got selected to this. But I'm honored and quite shocked. I want to thank the board. And I not only want to thank the present board for putting on such a fine event this evening, but I want to thank those on whose shoulders they stand. The boards that have gone before them. And Scott, out of love for you, I know you were one of the ones who initiated the KLA. So thank you again. I know Stu was there, but you were there as well, so I want to give you some love, and even as I keep you on the other side of the room as much as possible. Yeah, right. So I want to thank them. And I happened to be lucky enough to be the president of the KLA a couple of years ago when we decided to have the first Hall of Fame. Which, when you have the first of anything, is a rather risky business, isn't it, Stu? It's risky business. So there were an awful lot of people who were involved in putting on the first one a couple of years ago in Louisville. I, unfortunately, had another commitment, so I was not able to be there. But it went off great, and it went off because of a person who I think has given so much to the game in her own quiet way, in her service to the KLA, and to the first Hall of Fame. And she's here tonight to celebrate with us. And really, I want to honor her, Ann Fleming, for all she has done. And for our first Hall of Fame. Thanks, Ann. Great to have you. I don't think any of us becomes who we are by ourselves. I think all of us have a plethora of people, a network of people who have brought us to birth, who have loved us and challenged us and grown us and matured us and instructed us. And it's in that whole mix of the messiness of relationships that most of us come to know who we are. Who would I be without my mom and dad, Jim and Ruth Schuler, who fell in love with one another and began this incredibly romantic journey called marriage? I was thinking about that the other day. I read somewhere recently, somebody once said, marriage would be a lot easier if there weren't another person involved. I think I could do that marriage thing. They fell in love, and we are the product of that love. They gave birth to us. And they taught us, and they grew us. They taught us the meaning of commitment and sacrifice and hard work. I mean, Dad almost single-handedly started a company and built that company on his own shoulders with his own discipline and sacrifice. And we benefited from that company. And you've taken that company and grown it even bigger and better. Mom, I mean, I could put my moms in one sentence. My mom gave birth to 5 boys and 2 girls. Does that tell you everything you need to know? My dad had an easier job than my mom did. Who would I be without you? You have supported me in the good times, and we celebrated some great times together. And you've been with me in some of the hard times. All right, Peggy. So, I gotta tell you this. So, we gotta write this bio for this booklet you've got. And I don't write many bios, so I wrote this bio and I sent it to Peggy, my longtime companion. I'm already starting to lose points now because I said companion and not girlfriend. All right, so I sent it to her because she's the executive director of the local Rotary Club, and it's a huge club in the country, and she sees bios all the time. So I said, will you please edit this? So she edited it and sent it back to me, and there were 2 or 3 things on there that I thought were, good. So I was looking at those, kind of going, okay, yeah, I need to change this, I need to change this, I need to change this. And all of a sudden I came to the very end of the bio, and I noticed there was a paragraph on there that I had not written. This is what it said. Greg has a terrific and very understanding girlfriend of too many years to count. She knows from January through May he will be unavailable most nights and out of town on weekends, especially Saturday evenings. He is a very lucky guy to have such a sweetheart of a girlfriend. She is, you are. And by the way, Holly, did I not hear that you added something to your husband's bio of similar kind of things, maybe? Maybe. So maybe it is there's a community of others here that need to join together. I wear many hats in the lacrosse community. I enjoy them all. I have enjoyed immensely working with coaches in creating the Commonwealth Boys and Girls Leagues. And to watch those girls and boys participate in the season and then in the tournaments and then in the championships, and to see their faces, the excitement, the agony of defeat and the ecstasy of victory, to present trophies to these kids and these teams, I mean, that just fills me with great pride. Not because it's been me, but because all of us together have done some very great things. But I guess the hat I love the best is the hat through which I really came into lacrosse, and that was certainly the hat of officiating. I love being on the field as an official. I love being part of the game. I love being in the flow of the game. And I love the bros that I do it with, some of whom are here tonight with us to celebrate. Max, David, maybe the next generation of leaders to come in, and guys that I've sort of taught and mentored and coming up. And my college buddies, as Shawn was saying, Chris and Drew, and Drew's the best. Like, I bought a Miata so I wouldn't have to drive to any of these games. Like, the crew would always have to drive me because I only got a 2-seater. And 2 sacks don't even fit in my trunk. So when Drew and I go to Louisville to do a game, maybe with Pete and Scott, say that's a Trinity, when we come back, Drew has in his glove compartment a little bourbon bottle, a little glass, and there's ice. Now how can you, like, wow, brother, thank you, man. You gotta love it, right? You gotta love it. And of course, working with Shawn And I don't know, Holly, I gotta tell you this, and I don't know if this gets in trouble or not, but really from January through May, I talk to Shawn every day. And there are some days I talk to him multiple times in that day. About many things, not just about officiating, but about families and friends, and the friendship, as he was saying, that we've developed is just a wonderful thing. And then there's this bearded wonder dude who introduced me, Tim Yessen. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Bluegrass Lacrosse Association officials at our annual meeting this past, or 2 weeks ago, Sunday, began a new award for officiating in excellence, named after Dick Renfro, who was one of the pioneers of refereeing in the state of Kentucky. And so Dick was there. He had played at Army and reffed here, and he had taught taught Tim and got him going for lacrosse officiating. So Dick was there, and we certainly honored him. And then we awarded the first annual Dick Renfro Award, which was won by Tim Yessen for his excellence in officiating. I think he deserves a hand for it. There is no one more responsible for my officiating career and where that has taken me than Tim Yessen. Not only did he teach me how to throw a flag, which quite honestly was a heck of a teaching because my first flag didn't go above my shoulders, I don't think. I laid it down on the ground possibly so that everybody might trip over it. He not only taught me the rules, which he knows in and out, or the mechanics, which he does impeccably, but he taught me something much more important. In how he approached his officiating, in how he brought his focus and attention, his study and preparation, mentally and physically, to his officiating, Tim became for me a mirror in which I could see how I could be the best I could be. He believed in me more than I believed in me. And in the way he taught me, in the way he instructed me, in the words he used and the tone of his voice and the patience with which he worked with me, he invited out of me, and maybe even sometimes pulled out of me, the very best that I had. And for that, I will always be grateful. In the end, isn't that what every great teacher does? In the end, isn't that what every great coach does? In the end, isn't that what every great parent does? I love the game of lacrosse. I love its flow. I love the ups and downs, the settled situations, the offense, the defense, because unlike any other game I've ever been around, it mirrors life. But it's not the game I'm going to take away. I'll always love the game, but what's most important are the relationships and friendships that I've made. I will always treasure those. From the bottom of my heart, I thank the KLA for the honor of being inducted with these fine men into the class of 2018. Thanks.
You know what that is. Time to give some stuff away.
First of all, I want to thank Greg and all of the other inductees and the folks who introduced them for your very heartfelt speeches tonight. This room has about 100 people in it. I think we had a little bit about 100 in our inductee or our inaugural Hall of Fame also. The amount of energy and effort and selflessness in this room is overwhelming, and I appreciate your efforts to put it into words. It's amazing, okay? And every time coaches like myself, officials, administrators of the game get on the field, I think we all have in the back of our heads these kids. It's the kids. It's actually all about the kids, right? So we continue to make these sacrifices all the time because most of us are parents or about to be parents, aunts or uncles, and please keep them in mind. Everything that we do in Kentucky gets put back into our state through the U.S. Lacrosse organization and then redistributed so that we can keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. So I want to thank you all very much for coming tonight. I'm going to hand it back over to Rachel after we do our drawing. And then we have a quick, you want to put our new website? I know everybody hates our website. So we've been working on this thing for 6 or 7 years. So the new website is coming up. Oh, that's the old website. That's all right. We'll find the new website. The new website is even cooler. So, no, is that the new one? Oh, okay. I need Greg's glasses.
Yeah, there you go, bro.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw for the prizes, and then we're going to. Ben worked very hard with our inductees to put together some interviews. So we're going to play the video out while you all have some nice conversation, have a beer. I think the bar closes at 10 or 10:30, so don't feel panicked. Of course, be safe driving. Uber is easy and cheap, and then we'll do this again in 2 years. All right, ready?
You want to do prize number 1.
All right, prize number 1. Wait, I gotta shake it up and everything.
You get to draw.
Can't look. No, you draw. I'm the shaker and holder guy. Which one is this for? Okay, yeah, this is for the Georgetown Girls Lacrosse. Join the team during a home game on the sideline, mini scrimmage during halftime, 60-minute clinic for your players. One of our committee members, Coach Brandon Davis, who is not here tonight, generously donated, and the winner is?
Well, you read it there? It's like, is it David?
Peas?
Red ink on red paper.
David Brun?
Yeah, David Brun.
Is there a
coach?
David Brun? I know a wonderful girls' high school program getting started down in Bowling Green.
Okay.
Right? Lady Purples.
Okay.
My purpose is saying, pay it forward. All right, and this is number 2 from another one of our board members, generously donated a couple of nights at the Hyatt or spa, who knows. Breakfast for 2, a suite, stuff we can't afford, I know that, right? So enjoy it. Tim Jones. Happy Valentine's Day, Mr. Jones. Welcome to the Kentucky Lacrosse Association in Hyatt. Please say thank you.
Just thank you all very much for having us, having me. Tim, I owe you a beer for screwing up your name tonight. I apologize about that. And hope you all have a safe time. And thank you guys very much. And congratulations to all the individuals.